Welcome to the REHolistic Physio Podcast. Here we're going to try and find out the whys in order to work on the hows. Everything that is covered on the podcast is based on current evidence and up-to-date information on each topic. Please seek advice from your GP or a healthcare professional before carrying out any of the advice that you hear on the podcast. So today, welcome again, Sarah Davison, natural menopause expert and homeopath. Welcome back. I think everyone knows you now. So I don't think any other introductions are needed anymore, Sarah. As I was saying to Sarah before we started this podcast today, the amount of messages I've received about homeopathy, how people can kind of get in contact with Sarah or have an appointment with Sarah has been phenomenal. I mean, it's been really amazing, the feedback from your last...
It's lovely to be back, Heather. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you
for inviting me back. We always have a really good chat, don't we?
Oh, we do. And I think it's really nice as well because we actually sort of chat behind the scenes, we chat, it's really lovely, and it always feels like a kind of, I know you so well, even though I've probably only known you for a couple of months really. But so today we're going to talk about adrenal fatigue, which people probably won't know much, because I've got to be honest, it's probably one of the topics when you said, oh, adrenal fatigue is probably a topic that would be quite useful to cover, and I thought, I don't even know what that is. Do you know, I honestly thought, I have no idea what this is at all. And so I just want to mention adrenal glands, from what I've learned from your masterclass, which I should suggest people listening to if they could. Adrenal glands, they sit on the kidneys, don't they?
Yes.
And they do have links to the thyroid and the pituitary system, and they do release cortisol.
Yes, and do many other hormonal things. But they're known for releasing stress hormones.
Oh, and that's what we do need to understand, how we try and counteract these effects.
Yeah, but what they're not known for is the fact that they also produce estrogen and progesterone, our sex hormones.
There you go.
And that they become our main producer of those sex hormones when the ovaries wind down. Because we don't just need sex hormones for fertility.
Yeah.
We need for a myriad of other organs and tissues, basically.
Yeah. And so
I think the reason that you may not be familiar with the term adrenal fatigue is that medically this is not acknowledged as a thing. It can be called adrenal fatigue, or it can be called dysregulated adrenals, because they become very erratic. But it's not acknowledged as a diagnosis in mainstream.
That's interesting, that isn't it? So are we going by symptoms then?
Yes.
So if you went to the doctor and you just went, oh, you know, I've listened to this podcast, what?
Well, I don't. I mean, some doctors might acknowledge it, but there's nothing much they can do with it, because they have a diagnostic box they can tick. And once they've ticked a diagnostic box, then usually there's a certain medicine associated with the diagnostic box. But for them, you're either in Addison's or Cushing's, which are like the two ends of the scale of the spectrum, hypofunction and hyperfunction. But there is a very much an interim place where you can go into, you know, you can have all these different symptoms, many of which we call menopause symptoms.
Yeah, it's interesting. And with so can I ask you a quick question actually? Adrenal fatigue can happen in men as well then?
Yes, and before menopause. So when people do burnout, when they're totally exhausted, can't get out of bed, emotional wrecks, very, very anxious, those are some of and it's not, you know, they're not a woman over 40. It might be, I mean, there may be differential diagnoses for that, but if it's to do with the adrenals, it's because the adrenals are overworked, and it's often to do with stress or shock or you know, pain, surgery. There are all sorts of things that can impact that kind of overwork the adrenals, and then they get a bit dysregulated and tired, for lack of a better word.
It's a bit like us as people, isn't it? You know, you overstimulate and you overwork yourself, like, you know, running around, I don't know, to be with kids, without kids, doing 20 jobs or whatever, and then, you know, you don't get that time to rest, and it's basically the same, isn't it? You stress everything, you know, you stress the adrenals.
That's all because of the adrenals.
And so I know that you mentioned that when the sex hormones, though, in particular, deplete, then the adrenals try and pick up the slack. for that sort
right.
of.
So as the ovaries wind down from about late 30s, then the sex hormones that are still needed for brain function, bones, mucous membrane, skin, joints, vascular stuff, it needs to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from the adrenals. It's not the only place, but it's the main place. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that actually. And you want really, so in an ideal world then, you want the adrenal glands to be in a constant state of being okay.
You do.
You know what I mean? Like sort of that just consistent state of being like, okay, I can deal with this.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. They need
to the peaks and troughs.
Yeah, they need to be able to pick up the slack, basically.
Yeah. And so like if you're kind of, how would you realize in a way, like if you're suddenly getting to that point where it's escalating and the adrenals are sort of overworking, how do you kind of start to realize that might be happening?
Well,
is there a starting point where you sort of go, hang on, something's kicking off here?
Well, exhaustion. I mean, there are so many symptoms. I bet. Because the reason I know this so well is I've been teetered on the edge of burnout. I had adrenal fatigue at least 3 times since I hit perimenopause. And the first time was due to overwork and managing like a baby, and not having enough sleep, constant vomiting, and trying to do a very stressful job, which was supposed to be part-time, but of course it wasn't. And I just wasn't getting the sleep. And that presented as heightened anxiety, total exhaustion and weakness. Like I couldn't get up 2 flights of stairs without stopping at least once. Going over the edge with anxiety and stress about things that I used to do with my eyes shut.
Okay.
And also itchy rashes. I had itchy rashes on my arms. So that's what happened the first time. And then the second time, I think, was where I decided I would go and get fit. So I went to a bar class. This was like around, I don't think I was around 50.
Yeah.
And I went to a bar class, which for anybody that doesn't know, it's like modeled on ballerina training. And they make you work every muscle group till it is screaming in pain and shaking. And they think that's a good idea. That is so hard on the adrenals. And I often say to women, be really careful for the over 40s with intense exercise, because it can make everything worse. It's like the rules change. But with that, I noticed that I was finding the exercises very difficult. I mean, they were difficult, and I just thought I'm unfit. And then as the weeks went on, I was doing it twice a week. So I wasn't overdoing it, but it was very intense exercise. The last class that I went to, I was so weak that I couldn't do more than one like tricep move with a tiny weight at once. And I nearly fainted. So dizziness is often associated with adrenal fatigue.
Is that where you're just working so hard? Is it just the body's way of saying?
Well, the adrenals are related to, are associated, one of their functions is blood pressure. And, when you stand up.
Oh, okay.
The body needs to respond and yeah.
Oh. I didn't know that either.
You can get the dizziness, and then I was exhausted and really weak, and it took me about a month to recover. And then the third time, where I was just about starting to learn my lesson, was I put myself under a lot of pressure with my business, and I felt it coming on, that I was really exhausted and feeling angsty, and I thought, oh, I know what's happening now, and I kind of took my foot off the pedal. But a lot of it for me was caused by my own drivenness.
Yes.
Not just the hormones. It was, I could do that drivenness. 40. But after 40, rules change. Can't do that any longer. I have had to let go of so many ways of being. It's better for my health generally, actually.
It is. And I think it's so hard, isn't it? Because as someone, as you probably know from talking to me several times now, that I'm quite motivated, keen, And probably similar, like juggling quite a few balls in the air at any one time. Don't like letting them drop, because I've always seen that, not anymore, as a sign of failure. I do not see that. I have to clarify, I don't see it as that anymore, because I think that's half of the issue. You just have to learn to almost compartmentalize things and say, that's important today. That's going to have to wait.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about having your Johari's window, or anyway, it's about, you know, what do you dedicate? It's urgence first importance. This is coming back from my kind of my time as a business consultant, but you've got, you know, urgency and importance. Something that's highly urgent, highly important, you do it. Something that's highly urgent but not that important, you delegate it. Although
delegate.
we don't all have someone to delegate to. And something that's highly important but low urgency, you defer it. And if it's low urgency, low importance, don't do it.
Don't do it. And I think this is, but the thing is, it is like that, isn't it? Going off on a bit of a tangent here, but it is sort of like, I know so many women go, my house is a mess, I can't have anyone over. And you think to yourself, well, for me, it's like, well, you're going to have a play date and you're going to ask your friends over, because don't stop them coming over just because you think a house is a mess. Because that's detrimental to your own mental health anyway. You meeting with friends and socialising is so much more important and will reduce your stress levels, because you've had a chance to offload, meet with friends, have a chat. But the cleaning can wait; it'll always be there.
Absolutely.
The dust, it's fine. The dust is just settle again in a minute. You know, it's
you have to lower your standards a bit. You know,
you do. You do.
Like I now, on my client days, I have changed my diary so that I have no clients between 3 and 5, in case I'm tired or I've had a bad night's sleep, and I can nap.
Yes.
Whereas before, I would just grit my teeth and go through that mid-afternoon crash, doing nothing, like not productive at all. Now, if I even just have a 10-minute lie down without even sleeping, I'm so much more productive when I come back to my desk. And the other thing you said that was interesting is the importance of socializing. It really is. I've just discovered why. I found out behind it. Like, it's from somebody else. I heard this.
Please.
Who it was. Sally Garozzo. I heard it from her.
Sally Garozzo.
And she's a menopause hypnotherapist, and she was saying that high cortisol, which is one of your stress hormones, which is, you know, what you can be reducing a lot of and you don't want to do because it'll tie your adrenals, suppresses your oxytocin, which is your pleasure hormone that makes you feel good. They call it the love hormone or the cuddle hormone. And if you, by the same measure, if you increase your oxytocin by doing things like socializing, lowers your cortisol and therefore gives your adrenals a rest. So really important to be doing oxytocin increasing activities like listening to music, singing, getting a hug, cooking and eating with people, seeing friends, having sex.
So important. So important though, or not, you know, but And I think, do you know what? I mean, I love talking to you because I feel like now we know each other. It's quite a nice just to converse. We stick to the rule books sometimes, don't we? And stick to our bits that we were going to go through. But actually, it's quite nice to just chat with you. But I think it is. I think that's why I came up with one of the ideas of my walk and talk and my move and groove sessions, to have people. I'm on a video, I'm on a live maybe, and people don't feel alone, even if they've not got anyone that evening to go to. Sometimes I've just had messages saying, you've just got me up. You've got me up and moving. Or I've just watched you doing that and it just made me smile. Or and I think for them then, they've probably got that little bit of a release of oxytocin.
Absolutely.
You know, and they're not alone and they feel like someone else in the world as well is maybe, I'm not perfect. We all know that by now.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm not perfect and we're all just doing our best. And then it makes you feel like, in a world where everything seems so perfect because we're on social media, it isn't behind the scenes. We've all got our own struggles. Everyone has got their own personal, whatever it may be, weight, it might be mental health, it might be general health, well-being, I don't know, whatever it is. So I think it's just nice to just get with that group of friends, go and do that, sit and have a chat, or go for a walk.
Yeah, absolutely. Even better. Walk and talk. That's a great idea.
That's what, I started. And actually, well, I'm going to continue as much as I can.
Yeah. And I realized that's the benefit of, on my Flourish program, I do fortnightly Zoom calls, which are, they are to create accountability for people doing the work of the program. But actually the major part of the call is about connecting with each other and getting people to tell us where they are, and it being okay to not be okay, and just connect with the other women.
And then hopefully they'll go to bed realizing, and that'll be an offload off their minds as well. And I just think it's so important. It's so important to just all be we're a community. This is what the podcast is about, really. Just realizing you're not on your own. Everyone's pretty much going through something at some point. Just trying to tackle it in the best way, healthiest way you can. Just on a real holistic level. And I just think, even just a little bit, starting somewhere. It's really important. So back on track so we can this is so important, though. All of this is so important. So in terms of, I want to go back to that blood pressure, actually, because it is something I've literally just learned today, and I just thought, wow, I wonder if that sometimes you find someone that is just struggling with general sort of, I'll get people coming into clinic and they'll get up and they're a bit dizzy, and you think, oh, it's postural, postural hypertension or hypotension, blood pressure drop or blood pressure elevate, or you think, oh, it could be inner ear issue, or it could be visual, but actually there's other reasons under there rooted that might not.
I have to say, you might need to ask someone who knows more of the science.
As
I understand it, so I'm not saying this is 100%, but as I understand it, the kidneys and the adrenals are involved in that postural hypotension. I'm going to go interesting now to double check.
I'll dig in around it. Don't worry. Don't worry at all, Sarah. I picked your brains on that one just because I caught, and then I thought, oh my goodness, because there's probably so many. It's like, I've got to be honest, I touched on the thyroid here, because the thyroid, when I did the thyroid one that I've just released yesterday, oh my goodness, the amount of things that the thyroid, all of these symptoms though could well overlap a little.
They do.
They do. And so this is really hard to get to the root cause. And I think for anyone listening, just take away some of the tips that we might go through at the end about really just trying to regulate all of your systems. Do something healthy, and it's bound to help a system in the body. Even if you don't know what the root cause is at that moment, you haven't got access to a health professional, your healthcare professional at the minute, you're going down the route of thinking, I don't know what to do. I'm in this, I'm feeling like something's off and I don't know where to start. Just simple measures, aren't there, that we're going to go through in a minute. And I think it's just really important to know that you aren't on your own. Don't be too alarmed. Just, take your time with it. Just have a little bit of a go at some of the healthy options and some of the advice. And just then, once you get round to seeing that healthcare professional, hopefully you'll sort of be ready to listen to what they've got to say and where you can go next. So I really want to say about this exercise, because that hit me as well when you said about going to this bar class, and I kind of did the same, actually. So your 20s, 30s, I'd go mad on a spin bike or go to these classes and work myself to the point where I had to crawl out the door. But now I just can't. I can't do that. I just can't. And I think it's really important for people to not be hard on themselves, because I think another thing is your mental health gets hit because you suddenly are in a place where you're really, really exhausted because, again, I talk about children and jobs, but something in life is making you feel like you can't spend the time on yourself. And then you feel hard because you think, I used to be able to do that. And I used to be a size smaller than I am now. Well, let's face it, guys, embrace your size, embrace your age. We're all about embracing, aren't we, Sarah?
Yeah, we are. The rules change. The rules have changed. And it took me quite a long time to let go of certain ways of being and looking, and oh my God, it's so much easier now. I have let go of it, but it took me a while. It took me a few kind of hits.
And I think it's okay
that actually things are changing and it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. And this is the thing, I think, unless you are at a point where maybe your weight is an issue and you know why it's an issue, or things like that, there is a slight difference, isn't there? So if you know that maybe you're eating really unhealthily, there's a reason behind this. There's reasons why you fuel yourself that way, whether it be there's something really stressful or whatever the thing. But if you are trying to work on yourself and you're being as healthy as one can be, I always go, it's a bit of an 80-20. I've got to be honest, in my world, it's a bit of an 80 health, 20 sometimes the weekends, we're all normal.
Yeah, likewise.
You're only human, you're doing your best, aren't you? Yeah. And I think if you can just do that instantly, you're healthy. You've got to get a healthy mind. It's got to be all come together, isn't it? But yeah, so don't set yourself boundaries, is what you said, wasn't it? Don't crash. Don't go to the point where you literally fatigue yourself and can't walk out the door.
And the thing about sugar and caffeine is they will make adrenal fatigue worse, but we crave them when our adrenals are tired. So you have to find alternatives.
Yes.
Prop yourself up in that mid-afternoon crash, or get yourself awake in the morning. Because actually, caffeine, a lot of people say to me, but when we get onto the topic of sleep, one of the biggest healers for adrenal fatigue is sleep. But caffeine is one of the biggest things that will get in the way of it. And people say, well, I don't drink caffeine after lunch. I'm like, well, it depends on a particular gene as to how well you process caffeine and the condition of your liver. But there are some people who it can take as long as 10 to 12 hours for the caffeine to leave their system. So if you're putting the light out at 11, your last caffeine needs to be at 11.
I know.
Or what? Yeah. So
who does that? I know people that drink caffeine well into 3 cups, 4 cups a day into like the afternoon. Even if they cut out the one in the evening.
Because I have a tendency to adrenal fatigue and a sensitivity to caffeine. I have noticed in my times when I'm more, the adrenals are not in such a good place, that I am very sensitive to caffeine. And I remember, I can have a piece of dark, like 70% chocolate at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's stopping me from sleeping in the afternoon. Just recently, I kind of forgot about all that because I'm much better these days. And I've just discovered this new brand, really good decaf tea, Joe's Tea. And I made it really strong because it's decaf, the flavor is less intense. So I just let it sit in there, and I drank it. And while I was drinking it, I was thinking, oh, there's something about this. It's like, I wasn't quite sure whether it was caffeine but I didn't sleep that night.
No.
And it was decaf.
Yeah.
I had it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. See, my mum said the same with turmeric tea, actually. She said the same. She said she stopped drinking turmeric tea and her sleep was better, but she stopped drinking it in the evening, I must add. So I love turmeric tea. But I always have it in the morning if I'm going to have it.
I don't like turmeric. How do you like that taste? You like that kind of earthy taste, do you? Or do you have something else with it?
I tend to put my spoonful of local honey in there as well sometimes. But like my smoothies that you've seen me drinking, I'll put turmeric in there. Turmeric, nice. Just to give it, the qualities, the health qualities.
I use it for chasing off infections. If I feel like I'm going down with a sore throat, I keep turmeric in the freezer. I grate a load of that, and I grate a load of ginger from the freezer, and I boil that up with, and then I put vitamin C and extra lemon in it and honey. And if I have a couple of really strong cups of that, it can really just get rid of an infection.
Yeah, I get throat infections quite a lot, as you can probably hear. I'm quite raspy quite a lot anyway. And I have a lot of sort of the ginger, and I didn't particularly like ginger before, but I've got used to it now. I have ginger and turmeric shots.
Great for digestion too.
Yeah, very good. So the other thing I will touch on is this sleep. So sleep is very important, as we've said. I can vouch for I think sleep. I've started going to bed a bit earlier, and I honestly think it changes your mood as well. You wake up feeling better, more energy anyway, less lethargic.
Helps you lose weight too.
Yes, I know. I also read that. I did read that. Is it to do with cortisol?
No, it's something to do with, I can't remember. It's something to do with your appetite hormones and your fullness hormones. They do the thing so that your appetite and your fullness the sense of fullness decrease, something like that.
I might have to look at that actually. Yes, there's a reason I remember reading it. Yeah. And it also is that thing, if at late at night you feel like you want to snack. I did see this on someone's Insta actually. It was saying that if you feel like you're hungry late at night, it might be because you just need to go to sleep and ignore it and just have some fluid and then get to bed, because it might actually be just mixed communications, because that can happen in the body, can't it? You think it's a feeling of hunger, but actually it's a feeling of you need some fluid, And so you said about avoiding stimulating the adrenal. So there are certain stimulants, didn't you say, in terms of, you've already touched on caffeine, but like energy.
Any kind of caffeine. So I'm including green tea, matcha, yerba mate, dark chocolate, hard cheese. I don't know the science behind that one, but I was taught that at college.
Do you know, you've said that. I had a hard Parmesan with my gnocchi last night. I made a gnocchi. I didn't sleep that well at all. It's really interrupted.
Right.
Interestingly.
And then orange juice apparently as well.
Really?
Stimulates the adrenal, And oranges or orange juice stimulate the adrenal, so be really careful.
Is it the sweetness or something? Or
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is. Something to do with the citrus, possibly, and maybe the well. And sugar in any form is going to stimulate the adrenals. It's like withdrawing money from an overdrawn bank account.
Yeah, and no one likes to do this. So in terms of anything else, do you think that's quite important to add into this conversation at the moment?
So also can contribute to or cause adrenal dysregulation, excuse me, is chronic loss of sleep, intense exercise. I know you girls out there are doing it because you want to lose weight, but if your adrenals are fatigued and your hormones are going down, actually starving yourself, and also starving yourself and doing hard exercise is going to make your body hang on to the weight. I have had so many women come to me with menopause symptoms, weight gain, exhaustion. One particular woman, she'd spent 6 months with a personal trainer, working herself, being worked into the ground because the menopause, because the trainer knew nothing about menopause, and she was worse, and she'd lost no weight.
Because you're just stressing the systems, aren't they? They're all trying to counteract each other and balance each other out, and it's just
stressing the adrenals. You need to do exercise, but you need to really keep it gentler.
Gentler. We're not talking not cardio, we're not talking, but you just need to sort of watch. It's also good to write a diary. This is one thing I took away from yours when I did your masterclass, and I've just been talking to you. I mean, I've taken so much away from just talking to you generally, Sarah. So I'll thank you for that. But the exercise wise, keep a diary, almost keep a log. So if you're starting a new activity, you think, oh, I fancy having a go at that. Just see what the factors are and what's changing, or if anything is changing, and what you can try and just change one thing at a time. So if you're starting a nutritional aspect and you're starting this Hell for Leather exercise program, then
one thing at a time is a good idea.
One thing at a time, and keep a log of it.
I mean, it's not that people should, women should never after 40 do hard exercise. It depends.
It does depend.
Most of the women that I meet, they have compromised adrenals and they shouldn't be doing hard exercise. And what I say is, if you notice that it takes you a long time to recover from hard exercise, even if it initially makes you feel good because of adrenaline and cortisol release, then don't do it. I have women who say, oh my God, I need a day to recover after I've done a workout the previous day.
But that's not normal, really. You should really take in a day to recover from doing an hour's worth or 45 to an hour's worth of exercise is not the normal response. You may feel achy. We're not saying you wouldn't feel your muscles.
But it's exhaustion.
But it's that extreme chronic. It's like in the legs as well, that heaviness in. If you feel like you're heavy in legs, your body generally feels heavy. Then that's maybe rethink what or how much you're doing of it, or whatever it is. And I think, like, I've just had a conversation with Julian Baker actually about function over everything else. Is just do things that keep you moving and keep you functioning. In longevity wise. Find something you can consistently do. That's why walking, swimming, biking, walking with friends, finding a walking group, a climbing group. We're talking about upper body that helps to get on and off the floor, getting your lower body strength, all that sort of stuff. Just something, it doesn't have to be hell for leather. Sorry, all the people that run
yoga is great.
Yeah, yoga, Pilates.
Not Ashtanga yoga.
Personal preference there. Yeah, gentle yoga. I mean, there's so many forms of exercise out there, and I think if you combine a few of them to keep yourself generally nice and healthy, then you know you can't really go wrong.
Moving is the thing, isn't it?
Moving. This is why I say walk and move. They're my main things.
Ideally impact. I mean, cycling's great, but it doesn't give you any impact on the bones.
It doesn't load. So yeah, like you say, maybe a bit of cycling for your cardiovascular, and then a bit of sort of something else. You just got to find your thing. Dancing,
music. You're getting oxytocin.
You watch out, Sarah. You watch. This weekend, I'm recording something with a friend.
Yeah, I have a dance module on my Flourish program.
Do you?
I do. Yeah, yin yoga, qigong, and dance.
I'll talk to you after about something then. So that's absolutely fantastic. I think we're probably going to say we could probably touch on more, but we might revisit this area. 3 key points to take away from this podcast. What would you like people to take away?
I'd like people to do everything and anything they can to reduce their stress levels, like making your diary more spacious, saying no more, delegating, house stuff like cooking and cleaning and stuff. Get the family to help you out. Don't be the only one that does it. It's number one. Food, we've talked about. If you're only going to do, a couple of things, reduce sugar and caffeine or eliminate, and sleep. So have a nap in the afternoon, but not for longer than 20 minutes. And even if you don't sleep, just put your feet up and close your eyes for 15 minutes, and it will make a difference.
Wonderful. Thank you for all your tips and help. Lovely to see you again.
Great. Thanks so much, Heather.
Thank you.